If you've passed evals but still can't consistently get payouts, if you've gotten funded just to somehow give the account right back, if you've had days where you literally called in queue perfectly and still somehow into the day red, or you're sitting there right now thinking, maybe I'm just not cut out for this shit, this video is for you. And I don't mean that in some bullshit generic motivational way. I mean, I've literally been where you are. I've sat there after blowing another account thinking, what the fuck am I doing wrong? I've changed strategies. I've changed indicators. I've changed rules. I've bought more evals. I've watched more YouTube videos. I've studied more charts. I've taken more trades, and somehow the problem got worse. I've had days where I knew I should have stopped, and I kept clicking anyways. Days where one completely normal losing trade turned into me trying to win all my money back, and eventually losing 3 or 4 times what I originally was supposed to risk. Days where I could close the computer pissed off at the market, even though deep down I knew the market didn't do anything wrong. I did. And that's probably the hardest part of trading. Knowing what you should be doing and then watching yourself do the complete opposite when money gets involved. It took me roughly 8 months, around $30,000 in losses, a ridiculous amount of pain and frustration and some tears, and multiple moments where I genuinely thought about walking away before I finally started becoming consistently profitable. And what got me there wasn't another magical strategy, it wasn't some secret indicator, and it definitely wasn't learning 47 more trading concepts. It was finally understanding why I kept sabotaging myself, building one complete process, and removing my ability to keep breaking it. So if you're struggling right now, I want you to watch this entire video because I'm going to walk you through exactly what that period looked like for me, what was actually keeping me stuck, what finally changed, and what I would do if I had to start completely over again today. I need to start with why I got into trading in the first place, because I think this is something almost everybody watching can relate to. I didn't get into trading because I had some lifelong passion for candlesticks and charts. I didn't wake up one day and go, man, I really want to stare in queue for the rest of my life. No, I got into this for freedom, period. Financial freedom, time freedom, location freedom, the ability to make money without somebody telling me when I had to work, where I had to be, and how much I could make, or what my life was supposed to look like. That was always the goal, and I'm willing to bet that's why a lot of you started too, financial freedom. You saw trading, you saw prop firms, you saw somebody taking payouts, and you started doing the math in your head. If I can make $500 a day, that's 10 grand a month. If I can make $1,000 a day, that's 20 grand a month. If I can get multiple funded accounts, now we're talking real money. And suddenly you can see the life. You can see the apartment, the car, helping your family, traveling, not stressing about bills, not waking up every morning doing something you hate. And there's nothing wrong with wanting that. I still want that. Financial freedom is still the goal. The problem is when you need trading to give you freedom too quickly, you start trading like somebody who isn't free at all. You become desperate, and desperate traders make horrible decisions. I basically found futures trading through somebody introducing me to prop firms, and the concept blew my mind. Because compared to going out and putting a huge amount of your own capital into an account, you could pay a pretty small fee, take an eval, prove that you could trade, and potentially get access to funded capital. From the outside, it looked like one of the greatest opportunities I'd ever seen. And honestly, I still think prop firms can be an incredible vehicle if you understand how to use them. But for a beginner, they can also create one of the worst psychological environments possible. Because an eval is cheap enough to replace, and that's dangerous. You blow a real $50,000 account, you're probably going to sit there and think about what the hell just happened. You blow a $50 eval, what do most traders do? Buy another one and another one. And that's exactly where the cycle starts. Before trading, business taught me something that had worked extremely well for me. If something isn't working, work harder, put more hours in, learn faster, do more than everybody else. Solve the problem. And in business, that mentality can and will take you really far. There were situations where I could literally force progress by increasing my effort. More calls, more outreach, better marketing, more work, more content, more hours, whatever it was. So naturally, I brought that exact mentality into trading. And trading basically slapped me in the face with it. Because when trading wasn't working, my answer was more. More chart time, more trades, more strategies, more indicators, more YouTube videos, more concepts, more analysis, more accounts, more size, more effort. I could go on and on for days, and eventually I realized trading was probably the first thing I'd ever done where working harder could actually make me worse. Because after a certain point, more wasn't helping me. More was giving me more opportunities to fuck up. Let me describe a normal day from that period and tell me if this kind of sounds familiar to your situation. You wake up, you're motivated. Today's going to be different. You mark up your levels. You have your daily bias. You tell yourself, today I'm going to be disciplined. I'm only taking my setup. Market opens. You take trade number one. Stop loss gets hit. Okay, whatever. One loss, part of trading. But mentally, something would change because before that loss, you were trading the market. After that loss, you're trading your P and L. Now you're down 500 and all you can think about is getting it back to zero or green. You stop asking, is this a good setup? And you start asking, can this trade make my $300 back? Those are completely different questions. So now trade number two appears. It's not really your setup, but it's close enough. You take it. Another loss. Now you're down 600. And here's where shit starts getting dangerous. Because walking away down 3 or 500, yeah, it would have sucked, but walking away down 600 or 1,000 feels unacceptable. So now you start negotiating with yourself. One good NQ trade can make this back. I just need one setup. I'll make it back faster if I size up a little bit. Then you take another trade, maybe it wins, and now you think you saved yourself. So your brain just got rewarded for breaking your rules. Or it loses and now you're down over 1,000, or maybe the account's blown and suddenly the rules you wrote last night or pre-market mean absolutely nothing. You start clicking, you start anticipating candles, you start chasing moves you already missed. You buy breakouts after they're overextended. You short because it can't keep going up. You go long because it can't keep going down. You're not reading price anymore. You're emotional, but you're still calling it analysis. That's a dangerous combo. Because you can always find a reason to justify another trade. There's always going to be another fair value gap, another zone, another level of liquidity, another moving average, another candle pattern, another reason, and eventually you either blow the account, hit your DLL, or finally shut the computer off. And then comes the worst part, the silence after, because now the adrenaline is gone. And you know exactly what you did. You knew after trade one that you were supposed to stay patient. You knew after trade two that you should have been done. You knew when you sized up that you were emotional. You knew when you entered that last trade it wasn't your setup, but you did it anyways, and now you feel like an idiot. If this sounds like you, that's the point. I'm describing it this specifically because that was me. And then you wake up and do it again. And this is where trading starts becoming mentally exhausting because you didn't just lose money. You lose trust in yourself. You tell yourself, tomorrow I'm stopping at 2 trades. Then tomorrow comes and you take 6. You tell yourself, I'm going to risk $300 max. Then you lose and suddenly you're risking $1,000 trying to get it back. You tell yourself, I'm only trading NY session. Then you're on the charts during Asia trying to recover your losses from NY. You tell yourself, no trading during news. Then CPI comes out and you're convincing yourself that you can scalp it. Eventually, the problem isn't even the account or the charts. You just stop believing yourself when you make rules. And trust me when I say that's a horrible place to be. Because trading requires confidence. But how can you have confidence in yourself when you've proven to yourself 50 times that you won't do what you say you were going to do? And stop strategy hopping. That's where I would get completely lost. Because instead of recognizing that my behavior was the problem, I blame my strategy. One bad week, the strategy must not work or be broken. 3 losing trades, maybe I need another confirmation or indicator. Somebody posts a $4,000 trade using a different concept, maybe I should learn that strategy. So you go on YouTube and one guy tells you liquidity is everything. Another guy tells you volume is everything. Another guy tells you that order flow is everything. Another guy tells you ICT is where it's at. You know, eventually your chart looks like a fucking airplane cockpit. You're trying to understand everything and you're overwhelming yourself instead of getting good at one thing. And here's the trap. Learning, it feels productive, so you don't realize you're avoiding the real problem. It's much easier to watch another strategy video than admit, I already know enough to make money, I just don't have enough discipline to actually execute it. And that's painful, because if the strategy is the problem, you can blame the strategy if you are the problem. Now you've actually got to change. Roughly 8 months into trading and around $30,000 later in losses, I reached a point where I was basically sick of myself. Not trading, myself. Because I had enough information. I understood market structure. I had good analysis. I understood liquidity. I understood levels. I had setups that I had literally watched work over and over again. So why wasn't my accounts reflecting that? That's when I finally asked myself a question that completely changed the direction of trading. For me anyways. Instead of asking what I'm missing, I asked, what is present before my best trades? And what is present before my worst trades? That was one of the most valuable things I ever did. I stopped studying trading and started studying myself. When I went back through my good trades, they looked surprisingly similar. My good trades were boring. There was clear structure. There was liquidity. Price was at an area I actually cared about, a high volume zone. A prior area where serious execution had happened. Price would interact with that area. I'd get rejection. I'd get displacement. Sometimes we'd get the inversion or structure shift I wanted, and I would execute. There was a reason for the entry, a place where I was wrong, and a logical target. Simple. Then I looked at my bad trades, and my bad trades weren't bad trades because I didn't understand candlesticks. They were bad because I was doing stupid shit. Chasing, anticipating, entering in the middle of chop, forcing trades before price reached my levels, trading after missing the move, increasing size because I was down or red, taking another trade immediately after a loss, entering because I was bored, trading because I had a daily profit target in my head or I was trying to make a payout. That's when I realized something. My best trades happened when I was focused on process. My worst trades happened when I was focused on money. I was trading the payout. This is a massive one for prop firm traders. And I still see people do this consistently. You're sitting there thinking, I only need $700 for a payout. And the second you think that, you're no longer trading NQ. You're trading the fucking payout. Every candle becomes an opportunity because you're not asking, is this worth risking money on? You're asking, can this get me closer to my profit target or that $700? NQ doesn't care that you're $700 away from a payout. The market doesn't know. The market doesn't owe you shit. Same thing with daily targets. You tell yourself, I have to make $500 today. What happens when the market gives you one beautiful setup and you make $220 and then everything turns into disgusting chop? A disciplined trader says, market gave me 220, good day. An emotional trader says, I'm still 480 or whatever it is short, and start donating the 220 back. Then another 300 on top of that. That's when I started understanding financial freedom was the goal, but obsessing over money every single day was actually pushing financial freedom further away. I didn't need another strategy. That's probably the most important realization in this entire video. I didn't need another strategy. I needed a complete process. Those are not the same thing. A strategy tells you when you might want to enter or should enter. A process tells you when you trade, when you don't trade, what conditions need to exist, how much you risk, how many times you're allowed to try, what happens after a loss, what invalidates the setup, when you're going to stop for the day, what market conditions you avoid, how you review what happened. That is a trading system. Most struggling traders don't have one. They have entries and they're wondering why they're inconsistent. Eventually, I gave myself what I basically call the 30-day ultimatum. I told myself, for the next 30 days, you follow the process. No exceptions, and if you can't do that, go do something else. Seriously, because I was tired of saying trading doesn't work when I hadn't actually given my own rules a fair chance. How can you say trading or your strategy doesn't work if your strategy says maximum 3 days and you're taking 8, or 3 trades and you take 8? How can you blame your risk management? If your loss limit is $500, but you decide $500 doesn't count because the next setup looks really good, how can you say your setup doesn't work when half your trades aren't really your setup? I needed to create a sample size where the only thing being tested was my system, not my emotions. My trading got boring, and this is probably not what people want to hear. But the closer I got to profitability, the more boring my trading became. I stopped trying to predict every move. I stopped needing to catch the entire move. I stopped needing to trade every session. I stopped trying to prove that I was right. I started focusing on things, the handful of things that I actually cared about. Structure, liquidity, where price was trading, my high volume zones, the reaction, the rejection, the displacement, and whether there was actually room for the trade. That's it. If it was there, I traded. If it wasn't, I didn't. And some mornings, not trading became the best trade I ever took. I learned when not to trade. Learning when not to trade changed everything for me. And that's one of the biggest lessons nobody wants to learn, because beginners think profitability comes from learning how to find more good trades. A lot of the time, profitability comes from learning how to eliminate the bad trades. There are mornings when NQ is moving beautiful, clean directional movement, strong candles, clear rejections, levels are respecting. You can actually see buyers or sellers in control. And then there are mornings where price is doing absolutely nothing. Small candles, overlapping bodies, wicks everywhere, breakout, but immediate rejection, breakdown, immediate reclaim, no follow through. And people still sit there trying to force a $1,000 day out of it. I used to do the same shit because I thought, I'm here. The market is open. There's got to be a trade. No, there absolutely does not need to be a trade. Sometimes the market isn't paying, and the ability to recognize that before you donate 3 trades trying to prove otherwise is a skill. I started limiting my opportunities to fuck up. That was massive for me because I finally realized that discipline gets harder the more decisions you force yourself to make. So I started removing decisions, define trading window, define setup, define risk, defined maximum number of trades, defined DLL, defined conditions where I was done. If I lost, I wasn't immediately allowed to jump back in. I had to reset. Look at the charts again and ask, if I wasn't currently down money, would I actually take this trade? That's a very important question to ask yourself, because sometimes the only reason trade number 2 looks amazing is because trade number 1 lost. And sizing up after losses is your worst enemy. This one should be obvious, but almost everybody does it at some point. You're down, so you increase size because mathematically you can get back to break even faster. Yeah, and you can blow the account faster too though. Your worst emotional state should not come with your largest position size. That makes absolutely no sense. If anything, after a loss, your size should go down or stay the same. Because the goal isn't to recover the money. The goal is to make another good decision. You got to stop trying to win every day. And that took me a while to understand. You don't need a green day every day to be profitable. You need your green days to outweigh your red days. And you need your red days to be controlled. Some of the worst damage I ever did happened because I couldn't accept being down a small amount. I would turn a completely manageable red day into an absolute disaster just because I wanted to close the day green. And that's stupid. If you're down $300 and your system works, $300 means absolutely nothing across 30 trading days. But if you turn that $300 into $1,500 because your ego couldn't accept the red day, now you've got a real problem. And the first funded account will always feel different. Eventually, you'll pass a funded or pass an eval and get funded. And I still remember that feeling because to somebody outside trading, that doesn't sound important. You didn't even get paid yet. But after months of feeling like I couldn't get this shit right, it meant something. It was proof. Not proof that I was some amazing trader, not proof that I had mastered anything, but proof that the work wasn't completely pointless. And more importantly, proof that when I actually followed the process, the result looked different. Then eventually the first payout came, and that first payout hits different. And anybody who's gotten one knows exactly what I mean. Because up until that point, everything feels theoretical. You can make $2,000 on an eval or on a dashboard and lose $2,500 tomorrow. That number never becomes real money. But when the payout actually gets approved and the money leaves your trading account and hits your bank account, something changes and shifts. Because now you have proof of concept. Now you have evidence. All those mornings waking up early, all the stupid mistakes, all the blown accounts, all the nights studying, all the nights and moments thinking, maybe I'm wasting my time. For the first time, there's something tangible on the other side of it. And that's when my question changed from, Can I make money doing this? 2, how do I repeat this without destroying it? That question changed everything for me because making money once is not financial freedom. Getting one payout isn't free financial freedom. Having one $3,000 day is not financial freedom. Financial freedom requires repeatability, and repeatability requires you to stop depending on hero trades. I didn't want to survive because I caught one insane NQ trade. I wanted to know that I could sit down, wait for my setup, take controlled risk, make a decision, walk away, and do the same thing next week, because that can scale, and scaling comes after the process. This is something people do backwards. They're inconsistent on one account, so they buy 5. Why? You just multiplied your inconsistency by 5. If you can't manage one account, more accounts are not going to magically save you. They're just going to make every emotional decision more expensive. Once I started seeing repeatability, that's when scaling actually started making sense. Because now you're not trying to make more money by taking crazier trades. You're taking the same quality trade with the same process, but across more buying power. That's a completely different game. And if I could go back to the version of myself who was losing that money, there are quite a few things I would tell him immediately. First, stop looking for another strategy. You already know enough. Second, stop trying to make trading solve your entire life this month. The more desperately you need the money, the worse you're going to trade. Third, pick one setup and get disgustingly good at it. Fourth, track your behavior, not just your P&L. Because a green day where you broke 6 rules is not a good trading day. And a red day where you followed every rule perfectly is not necessarily a bad trading day. Fifth, get somebody outside of your own head to look at what you're doing. Because when you're the one making the mistakes, you're often the worst person to diagnose them. I would have invested into myself so much earlier too. And I know how this sounds because I have a mentorship program now. So you can completely ignore this part if you want, but this is genuinely what I would have done. I would have gotten hands-on help earlier because I probably spent more money trying not to pay for help than getting the right help would have cost me in the first place. That's what traders do. They'll say, oh, $3,000 for coaching is too expensive. And then they'll spend another $6,000 blowing evals over the next few months. Because every individual eval is only $50 or $100, so it never feels like $3,000 up front. You just bleed slowly. My biggest problem wasn't access to information. I had fucking YouTube. There's unlimited information on there. My problem was I couldn't see my own patterns. I needed somebody to look at what I was doing and say, that's why you're losing. Stop doing that. You don't need another setup. You need to fix this behavior. And here's what I would do if I was struggling right now. If you're watching this and you're currently inconsistent, don't just close this video feeling motivated. Do this. For the next 30 trading days, pick one setup, not 5, 1. Define exactly what has to happen before you're allowed to enter. Write down what invalidates it. Define your maximum risk before the session even starts. Define your maximum number of trades. Have a hard daily loss limit and stop moving it after every single trade. Screenshot it. Write down 3 things. Why did I enter? Did I follow my rules? Would I take this exact same trade again? That's it. Then at the end of every week, separate your trades into 2 categories, rule following trades and rule breaking trades, and compare them. I'd be willing to bet a lot of you are going to discover something uncomfortable. Your strategy probably isn't losing nearly as much money as you are. And you need to stop judging yourself by one day. You also need to stop letting one day determine whether you think you're a good trader. Yeah, you might win $2,000 and think you're a genius, but you're probably going to lose $500 tomorrow. All of a sudden, your strategy doesn't work. That's emotional bullshit. Trading is a sample size game. You need enough trades to know anything. You can't judge a coin after 3 flips, and you can't judge a trading process after 3 trades. The real goal needs to be self-trust, and that's something I didn't understand when I started. Consistency isn't just making money consistently, it's becoming consistent as a person. If you're thinking about giving up, let's go back to the person I made this video for. You might be watching this right now, down money, blowing evals. Maybe you've been trading for 6 months or a year or 2 years, And you're embarrassed that you're still not where you thought you'd be. I get it. Because when I started trading, I definitely thought I'd figure this shit out a whole lot faster. And every month that went by, you start asking yourself, how much longer am I going to keep doing this? Am I delusional? Am I wasting money? Is everybody else just better at this than me? Should I just quit? And I'm not going to tell you never quit, because that's lazy advice. If you've been gambling, refusing to learn, breaking every rule you make, or not having any rules at all, and expecting the market to magically save you, then something needs to change. But maybe the thing that needs to quit isn't trading. Maybe you need to quit the version of yourself that's been trading. Quit revenge trading, quit strategy hopping, quit buying another eval 5 minutes after blowing one. Quit sizing up because you're mad. Quit trying to make rent with NQ today. Quit trying to force $500 out of a market that's giving you nothing, and quit thinking you need to trade every day. Also, quit measuring your worth by today's P&L. That version of you needs to die, because the trader on the other side of consistency does not behave the same way. And I want to make this clear, because sometimes trading content starts acting like wanting money is evil. Fuck that. Of course I want money. Of course I want financial freedom. Of course I want to build a life where I'm not controlled by somebody else's schedule, where I can live where I want, help the people I care about, buy the shit I want, and have control over my time. That's the entire reason I started. But there's a big difference between having money as the destination and staring at money while you're trying to drive. If you're driving somewhere, you look at the road in front of you. You don't look at the destination. Trading is the same way. Financial freedom is the destination. Process is the road. And you might be closer than you think. And this is the last thing I want you to understand. Some of you watching this genuinely know enough already. You don't need another 80 hours of YouTube. You're not one secret strategy away. You're one behavioral shift away. You might already know how to find good trades, but you take too many bad ones. You might already know proper risk, but you abandon it after a loss. You might already have a profitable strategy, but you don't give it enough time to play. Sometimes the difference between losing and profitability isn't becoming twice as smart. It's removing the 20% of your behavior that's destroying the other 80%. And everybody's gap is different. Some of you can't get through an eval. Some of you pass evals constantly but can't keep the funded account. Some of you can keep the funded account but can't get over the payout threshold. And some of you get payouts, then give everything back the following week. Some of you are disciplined but genuinely don't have a clear strategy yet. Some of you have an amazing strategy but zero discipline. The important thing is figuring out what your gap is, because until you know that, you're just randomly trying to improve everything. And that's actually the reason I built the MBX Accelerator. It's not, here's 150 pages, go read it, good luck. Because again, most of you don't need another random pile of information. What we do is actually look at your trading, where you're currently at, your recent trades, your risk, your habits, your setups, what happens after you lose, what happens after you win, where you're breaking down, and then we build the process around fixing that. You get the full curriculum, my HVZ strategy, lifetime access to my indicator, my live trading sessions. You get private coaching from me, direct trade reviews and audits, accountability, a customized plan based around where you actually are, a private place where we can work through the shit that's holding you back. And like I said, lifetime access to the VIP community. Because the person who can't pass an eval does not need the same help as the guy who's already made 10K in payouts but keeps giving it back. Those are two completely different problems. So if you're genuinely at the point where you're saying, I know I can do this, but I'm fucking tired of trying to figure out everything alone, the first link in the description is where you can apply from an eval sesh with me or somebody from my team. We'll figure out where you're at, what's actually holding you back, what you really need to work on, and whether or not the accelerator makes sense for you. And if you're not ready for that, that is completely fine. Join the free Discord below. There's a ton of free education in there, my whole strategy, and you can start implementing exactly what I talked about in this video. Pick one setup, control your risk, limit your trades, start tracking your behavior, and give yourself 30 days where you actually do what you said you were gonna do. because financial freedom through trading is possible and realistic, but you're never going to reach it if every time the market punches you in the mouth, you abandon the exact process that's supposed to get you there. And I learned that the expensive way. Hopefully you don't have to. And again, YouTube videos coming one time a week at the very minimum. So like, comment, subscribe. Please show some love as it helps a lot because I'm new to YouTube. And I'll see you in the next one.